We're the largest Italian ice brand in the world with over 600 locations. First thing that's most important is you really have to love the brand and identify with it. The most successful franchisees that we see are those that are involved in the local sports, religious institutions, their schools, all of these things. So you can really drive our core audience, which is families and kids.
Patrick Findaro here, founding partner at Visa Franchise and Better Biz. Excited to have on Lawrence Brown, former colleague of my brother and business partner, Jack, back at his time at Restaurant Brands International and also on Burger King, Tim Hortons, Popeyes. Lawrence, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. I have a great amount of respect for you and your brother, so it's a pleasure to be on with you here today.
Thanks so much. And Lawrence, maybe you could talk a little bit about your background. You know, both of us have spent time in Brazil. You've spent time in Europe. You worked at different companies. And then how you ended up at Rita's, which is a great brand.
Well, I always like to say I'm a confused individual. I was born in Brazil, grew up in the US. I was in the military here. Most recently, about 9 months ago, I joined Rita's as Chief Development Officer. Really what excited me about it, Linda, who's the CEO, gave me a call and talked to me about the opportunity. I had worked with her in the past, and really important to me is going to brand that I could see myself being a franchisee. That's important. Ultimately, if I see myself that it's something I would invest in and want to be a franchisee, that's something I can personally sell as well, and be a part of and get excited about. A little bit prior to that, a little bit prior to me, as I mentioned, I was in the military after college. I worked in finance for a little bit period of time, as well as in real estate. I made the transition over 15 years ago to franchising. Started out, which was originally Burger King, as you mentioned. Had the great opportunity to work with your brother there. Eventually became Restaurant Brands. I started out as the CFO and head of real estate for the North America business, ran a couple of regions for Burger King in the US, as well as Tim Hortons and Burger King in South America, where I had the pleasure to go back to Brazil, one of my many homes. 4 years ago, I got the opportunity to move with two of my former bosses to Fat Tuesday as the Chief Development Officer. It was a really exciting opportunity as it allowed me to build corporate stores. I had to build 40 corporate stores over 2 years. After finishing up that role, I got the opportunity to join Procter & Gamble's franchising arm, Tide Cleaners and Tide Laundromats, which was the last role I had until up to this most recent one when Linda gave me the call.
Lawrence, for the audience that's not familiar, what do you do as a Chief Development Officer?
Great question. I get that all the time. Essentially, I'm the individual that anyone who's interested in becoming a franchisee at the first step of the stage will talk to me along with my team. We take them throughout that process until they eventually sign up to be a franchisee. Additional parts of my team is real estate and construction. So as soon as you sign a franchise agreement, you're handed off to our director of construction. We'll help support you finding real estate, as well as our construction design team will support you along that process as well, helping you get the design completed, as well as permitting and ultimately get it open. And that full aspect are the pieces that Chief Development Officer like myself covers.
So basically A to Z from the initial contact to understand if Rita's is the right choice for a franchise candidate up until they open, minus the training. That training is handled by your colleagues.
Yes, of course.
And yeah, obviously you mentioned just now you've been a part of different brands. You mentioned, you wanted to be with a brand that you yourself could see yourself as a franchisee. Why would you be a Rita's franchisee? What makes it special?
I think something that's super important, and not just only me, but in general, the advice I give to someone looking to become a franchisee is the first thing that's most important is you really have to love the brand and identify with it. Identify it as a consumer, identify it as someone who could see themselves being in that business every single day. But I think once you feel that, like, I like this business, I like the product, I could see myself selling it, interacting with guests. The second thing that's super important is you need to see a pathway to be successful financially, right? And while we don't disclose it for limitations in FTC, on the COGS and the labor percentage, if you compared us to most QSRs as well as other dessert concepts, I think you'd find it very attractive. The other thing that we always do to help support our franchisees or prospective franchisees is connecting them with an existing franchisees who can talk a little bit more about those details and allow them to pull back the curtain or the kimono a little bit.
How many prospective franchisees should one talk to? And is that something that's a phone call? Do they actually visit site locations?
I think we recommend that at a minimum, someone speaks with at least one franchisee. We tee up at least 3 intros. Nice. So that they can speak to different groups. What we try to do is introducing the people who are in similar situations, whether it be geographies, whether it be structure. Look, my husband, my wife, both of us want to join, or how the structure is going to be set up. We ideally like to match it up in that manner, but ultimately it's unlimited how many that you can speak with. We'll continue to make the introductions. And as far as visiting sites, we've had franchisees do that as well. We think it's great because you actually get to see the operations. And most importantly for us, I always view this as a marriage, right? Once you sign the franchise agreement, we're almost, it's a 10-year agreement with an option room for another 10 years. It's essentially a very long period in time. So we want to make sure this is a right fit for both.
Tell me what your ideal candidate's like. What is their background, personality type? What do they need in terms of financials to get the first location up and running?
So I think our CEO always says, and I love to say as well, is that this is not a business for introverts. You need to be outgoing. You need to be able to interact with guests and have the desire to get into your community, because the most successful franchisees that we see are those that are involved in the local sports, religious institutions, their schools, all of these things. So you can really drive our core audience, which is families and kids. But essentially leveraging that, there's three things that we really look for in our franchisees. The first is passion, right? You have a passion for hospitality. You have a passion to be in your local community, and that just is oozing out. The second piece that's so important is the business acumen and the managerial experience. You need to be able to manage teams and manage people, because that's going to be part of your day-to-day life. And then the third thing is the ability to grow, right? While we are 100% open and we love signing up one-unit franchisees as well as multi-unit franchisees, we look for franchisees that have the ability, even if they sign up for one, to do multi-unit. That ability is not only the business acumen, but as well as having the capital to do that.
That makes sense. And is it open, throughout the United States? Are there any territories that are sold out, or rather territories you're really looking to expand in?
Yeah, so we currently have 600 locations in 30 different states. About 2/3 of them are in the Mid-Atlantic, PA, New Jersey, Delaware, Maryland. And the areas that we're very much focused and growing, so to your point, sold out. It's pretty dense packed there. So while there's probably, a little bit of opportunities, the real big opportunity, the areas we like to call our fringe markets and the Sun Belt. So basically, Ohio, Virginia, New York, Connecticut, that border, that core market, as well as I mentioned, the Sun Belt, Texas, Florida, Georgia, and the Carolinas. Historically, we've grown about 30 to 40 units. Last year, we opened up 39 units. And our goal is ultimately to pivot up a little bit to 40 to 50 units. But again, focus on doing it the right way, making sure that they're long-term successful units and not just opening a unit to open one.
Of those units, how many are with current franchisees versus new franchisees entering the Rita's family?
So roughly the split is about 50-50.
Nice.
We have... and again, because we have franchisees that sign up multi-unit agreements. So about half of them are existing franchisees. They're building their second, third, or fourth, or someone that's had a unit for a long period of time. We consistently get it that they say, look, I found an opportunity in my market. I'd like to sign up and build another one.
And I would say the last one's like really the proof that the system's working. Someone has no contractual obligation. They have a lot of different business opportunities, and they're still want to go back to open up a Rita's franchise.
Our operators love Rita's, right? And I think the reason why they love it so much, it's simple, right? We always talk about, we have two core products, custard and ice, almost no proteins, because custard's the only protein. So very simple from a COGS perspective, very simple from a labor perspective. You can run with one employee, flex up to 5, depending on peak and demand. So they love that. And they love the fun environment of it. Generally guests come in and they're like, I'm excited. I won my soccer game. I lost my soccer game. But either way, I'm here to get a Rita's treat.
And I mean, is it a business that's tough to find employees right now, or?
Surprisingly, it has not been a business that's tough to find employees, because we call our employees treat team members, and our core treat team members are high school and college kids. And our hours match up with that very well as well. We generally open after 12 and close late in the evening. Our peak hours are obviously after school. So really, as you start adding more employees, that comes in the after school period. And then weekends, they love it, right? Why do they love it? Okay, you get to wear a t-shirt and shorts. You get to meet all your friends, family. Many times you get to make tips where it becomes very attractive for them, and just a fun, easy job. No fryers, no hoods. You're just scooping and serving.
And when is it the right time for the owner to open up that second location? Do you usually want them to have 6 months, 12 months, being at the first location day in, day out?
I mean, obviously there's, someone has a team and a structures in place. There's the ability to open up quicker. But if it's your first retail location you're opening, your first foray into franchising, we generally like a year to year and a half. Generally, what that's going to allow you to do is get through your first full season. We really, again, we're looking for operators. We don't, while you can work day to day, we're looking for people that are not standing at the front counter, the multi-unit person that has the ability to add that second unit. But of course, that experience is important. So a year to year and a half is best targeted.
You mentioned a little bit the support you offer, like on the construction side, site selection. What other support do you offer the franchisee from the franchisor side? And is there any, franchisee to franchisee shared learnings?
Of course. Well, first of all, we have our RFAC, which is our advisory council of franchisees. We meet on a monthly basis, as well as we meet in person a couple of times a year in our headquarters as well. So that's one piece where we're constantly sharing and interacting. Franchisees, of course, are constantly working together. We do have DMA meetings, especially in the areas where we have a larger concentration, like Philadelphia and DC, allows for the sharing of ideas. From a training perspective, I didn't get to mention, all new franchisees are required to spend 1 week in our headquarters in Philadelphia. They come on site, we work with them and teach them how to make the product, as well as how to run a shop. Before they open, we go on site and work with them locally in their market, as well as introduce them, if there's nearby franchisees, to them, and give them the opportunity to work in their neighboring franchisee shops. And once you're actually open, every franchisee is assigned an ops lead, as well as a marketing lead, to help support them on a day-to-day basis.
So they can call them pretty much any time they're having an issue, some equipment broke or a personnel problem, or, hey, it's Saturday and there's not many people coming in. What can I do, on the marketing front?
Exactly. And that's a constant conversation. We also we break out, these teams report up to DO. They have the ability to speak to the director of operations and the head of the field. All of those things are there. And we conduct business reviews with our franchisees on a regular basis to really work on things, say, hey, what's going well? What can we do more? Sharing a best practice, and what's some opportunities.
So you guys sound like you're really earning your keep on the royalties that you collect, providing a lot of value add.
I think it's obviously key because, this business is really a very cyclical, virtuous cycle. So, the key that I've always learned from the beginning of franchising is, help your franchise be as profitable as possible, right? When they have that match, they're able to invest back in their business and continue to grow, and you're both successful together. So franchisee profitability, franchisee success is always top of mind for us.
Yeah, and you can't consistently be opening up 40 locations if franchisees aren't doing well and they don't see the future, as brighter than their past days operating Rita's.
Of course, that's the number one most important thing.
In terms of how you guys are positioned, like in the frozen dessert space, tell me, how are you guys compared to like individual mom and pops, which I don't think there are many these days anymore, and then other kind of corporate or franchise brands?
So we're the largest Italian ice brand in the world with over 600 locations, as mentioned. What's really unique about our product is it's light, fluffy, refreshing, different than almost anything else you can find in the market. And the product really came from Southern Italy, Granita-based. Immigrants came over to Philadelphia, New York market, and they created this product based on that Granita formulation. Our product is made fresh every single day on site with real fruit. And what's really attractive about it, because of our product, is that compared to traditional QSRs, we have quite low COGS, and even given the fact that we have less milk as well as fats and those items, we even are more attractive versus some of the other dessert players out there as well. The other thing that's important is that we focus, and we want to focus only on being really good in the treat space. So we haven't tried to expand, adding a bunch of food to the menu, all these pieces, because that ultimately helps support franchisee profitability.
So COGS are low, labor's low. It's high school students.
Yes.
What other expenses do you have besides rent?
Essentially, that's it, right? You have your rent, your COGS, and your labor. Of course, you have some minor G&A items. You have to do your taxes. You have to set up your entities, all of those pieces. Sure. But generally, those are the largest expenses on a franchisee P&L.
And how long does it usually take to open up a location? Like once a site's identified, leases negotiated, I know it varies, Miami compared to, some easier jurisdictions, maybe in Ohio, for example. But what do you usually see?
Yeah, so most of the locations that we're doing, and one of our biggest focuses, I've talked a lot about this recently, is trying to do adaptive reuse, right? Essentially, what does that mean? Taking spaces, our biggest focus on drive-through. I mean, it's no surprise post-COVID, people want drive-through, and our business, they demand it, right? In the instance that they have their young kids, they're running all over the place. They really want that opportunity to not have to get out of the car. So what we tried to do is leverage second generation spaces, banks, dry cleaners, former coffee shops. But in general, going back to your question, right, because most of our spaces are second generation spaces, we can be built within 60 to maximum 90 days. Now
That's wild.
Yeah.
That's great. Yeah, because we've had clients in the past. I mean, you're right. Thinking on second gen, they're, that more or less around that. I think you got them a little beat, but some of our clients doing a new build out, it's like, can be a year, especially in Miami-Dade or parts of Southern California with the complicated permitting.
Yeah, and to be clear, that 60 to 90, that's the construction period. Of course, real estate's always been tough. It's even tougher in this market. So it does take time. I mean, we've had instances where someone signed and 30 days later they've signed a lease. We've also had instances where they've signed and 12 months later we're still trying to find a lease or purchase a site. Because ultimately we want to get the best site. So exactly. Yes, we set deadlines for when people want to open, but we've never canceled agreement for someone who's actively working towards those deadlines.
Yeah, you see that they're doing their best. And do you work with national real estate brokers? How do you make it easier to facilitate the site selection?
So we have a group of brokers that we've trained, and our director of real estate is trained, and essentially there's about a group of 5 different individuals that know the brand very well, and we leverage them based on the regions. That being said, if a franchisee comes to us and says, look, I have this person I've worked with a ton, well, there's no obligation to use them.
Very cool. Tell me a little bit about the growth plans. What do you have coming on, the next, say, 3 years?
Over the next 3 years, again, as I mentioned to you, our real focus is taking this, high 30s growth to getting up to 40 units. But with that, most importantly, pivoting ourselves towards drive-thrus. So today we have, just about 40 units of the 600 that are drive-thrus. And we do see great performance from that. We want to continue to lean into that because, again, it allows you, our guests, to access us, young families and kids in the mode they like. But the other thing that's important is, right, generally, historically, our shops, like many other ice cream shops, are walk-up window shops. So with that, if it's inclement weather, it's a little bit colder, of course, that affects guest patterns. But if you have a drive-through, if it's a little bit colder, it's rainy, people will still come and yes, take part in enjoying a Rita's. The other thing that we've done and we leaned into heavily is third party. We launched it in 2020, actually right before COVID, and we've seen a great amount of success, and we're continuing to build that.
How do you make sure that it arrives and it's not all melted? Does it just deliver well?
Actually, surprisingly, it delivers extremely well. What's interesting about it is that we have a process we put in place. As soon as someone gets an order, they make it. Right. They then put it into a bag, and we have a holding freezer that will bring the temperature down a little bit more. So it gets ready for the Dasher or Uber Eats driver, whoever might become. Right. They usually put it into a cold holding receptacle to insulate it to help them as well. So
nice. You've been around a lot of franchise brands. Is there some general advice that you have for people that are looking to maybe become a business owner for the first time? They already are managing, a couple of direct reports and numerous reports under that. And any advice for those type of people?
Our best and most successful individuals we've seen is exactly like you just mentioned there. Look, I want to become an entrepreneur. I've had success in business, looking to branch out into that next piece as a family or, as with friends or a group of individuals that want to invest. And I think it goes back to what I mentioned earlier. Really, focusing on a brand that you like, right? Because if you're an owner, you're going to have to wake up every single day and every single night, you're bleeding that brand. So you identify with the brand and then that profitability piece. And what I encourage is exactly what we do. Take time, get to know actual franchisees, get to know their business, visit locations, right? Even if it's not, you mentioned go out, hey, you visited with the existing franchisee, just visit it as a guest as well. See what the interactions and see what it requires.
Mystery shopping.
Yes.
Lawrence, anything that we didn't talk about today that you want to tell our audience?
I think just most importantly, right, we believe that there's a huge opportunity and white space for this brand. Guests have told us this. We've continuously had success outside of our core market. So please feel free to reach out to me. Feel free to reach out to anyone on my team and learn more about the brand. I always participate in the process in kind of at least 2 touch points before anyone comes to meet the team day. They get the opportunity to speak one-on-one. And then when we actually have the meet the team day, which we conduct either in person or virtually, depending on flexibility of our franchise, our perspectives and their schedules. So reach out, learn more about the brand and the process.
Lawrence, thanks so much for taking the time to connect. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. Always a pleasure.